Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Today we have Rolf Gerritsen, CEO of Cobra Resources, which is listed on the market towards the end of last year and is focused on mining projects in Australia and Africa. Joining him from Australia is Craig Moulton. Morning to both of you.
Morning.
Morning, Rod.
For those investors who aren't familiar with your company, can you just give us a quick summary of what Cobra Resources is about?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, first of all, for the time that you're giving us today, and that's much appreciated. In terms of Cobra Resources, we set it up about 9 months ago now, and the first step was to make sure that we got it listed on the London Stock Exchange on the main market standard segment, which was completed last year as a cash shell. The intention was then to go out and find a project that were undervalued, that had strong management associated with it, that could then take it forward. Our focus over the last few months post-listing has been on reviewing a number of projects, and as a board we've really looked at quite a number of them. And in early December we found this particular project, which is Lady Alice, and we've now announced the acquisition of that. And very importantly, Craig Moulton comes along with the asset and will be joining Cobra as managing director, and he's locally based in Australia and therefore in an ideal position, not only from a geography perspective to drive it forward, but also from an expertise and experience perspective. So I'd like to maybe hand over to him, and he can give you a bit more background on himself and then talk a little bit about the assets.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks. I appreciate that. And once again, thanks for your time today. So look, I think this is very exciting. There's two really interesting projects that we've identified in Prince Alfred and Wudinna. In terms of my background, I'm a geologist and mineral economist. 25 years experience globally, a lot of that spent in Australia in both exploration and resource development, with a range of companies from Rio Tinto and Cliffs to involvement with smaller companies like Ozquest. I think the two assets that we've identified here are really interesting. One, Prince Alfred, is a potentially small but very high-grade copper project, which is the extension of historic mineralisation, oxide copper ore that was mined in the 1870s, where nobody has applied any modern exploration to see the extent of the sulfide ore below that. And it's something that I think is going to be very, very interesting. The attempts that were made in the 1960s to drill a couple of holes failed due to the technology at the time. Similarly, Wudinna is a really interesting mesothermal gold project. Already has a significant JORC resource on it, and these type of projects have the potential to be very large scale and reasonably high grade. There's certainly the type of gold project that you want to look for in terms of gold exploration. The approach and the thinking that's been applied to this is quite revolutionary, with the establishment of some really clever exploration techniques to look at exploring the deposit further, and we've identified quite a few, in fact somewhere in there of 14 targets, and a number of those will be priorities for early exploration during this year. So once listing is completed, it's going to be a very exciting time. We have a number of exploration plans in place, obviously testing Prince Alfred by doing some RC diamond drilling, so it'll be RC holes with diamond tails. And that will probably include some downhole geophysics. So we'll have some information for the market that will come out of that. Certainly, we will understand very quickly the extent and the quality of the mineralisation below that mine. And then the same, we have several programs designed for Wudinna as well, which will see some geochemical sampling, but then a series of target testing holes drilled to assess the higher priority targets, as well as some drilling that will be specifically targeted to extend the current resource and build that, so that we build the resource as the basis for a future operation.
Great. So that's two assets that Rolf's going to make sure you're kept busy then with, Craig.
Absolutely.
I guess the next question that investors are going to have is about the relisting process and the steps involved and what we can anticipate in terms of timing.
Yeah, in terms of the process, it's quite straightforward in that what we are currently working on is preparing a prospectus that will be presented to the UKLA. That prospectus requires a few documents as inputs. One of those key documents is a competent persons report, and we're having those prepared on both assets so that we have a very up-to-date competent reports on both assets. That will then be included in the first prospectus. We anticipate a first draft to probably go out mid-April, end April. If all goes well, it depends a little bit on holidays and getting the team on site. But once it is then presented to the UKLA, we go into a process which is not really controlled by us, because the UKLA have to be satisfied that we're supplying all the information that is required from a governance perspective, and make sure that they're comfortable to get us relisted. But once that prospectus has been approved by the UKLA, then we will be in a position to relist. We're hoping to move it along quite quickly, but in terms of specific timeframes, we can't really hang our hat on that at this particular stage. But it's an ongoing process. We've kicked it off, and we're hard at work in driving it forward. And maybe Craig, you'd like to add something to that.
Yeah, thanks, Rolf. I think so. We've commissioned the work with SRK, and we see them as a globally recognised experts, and they certainly have a lot of expertise in this style of mineralisation, and certainly looking forward to their findings and their reviews that will come out of that, on top of the due diligence work that we've done already. At the same time, Optera will also be providing an updated 2012 JORC resource, which will provide a very solid base in terms of the resource for Wudinna going forward. I think the timing for both of those, it's likely to take somewhere in the order of 4 to 6 weeks before that process is completed, and that will possibly involve a review with SRK going to Adelaide to have a look at some core as well. So I think it'll be a very valuable process for us internally to have an independent set of eyes to review that data, and already some of the early conversations have proved to be very interesting, and certainly the reaction from them is that it's a very interesting project.
Great. I think in part you've answered my next question, which is in terms of news flow, what can we anticipate over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so look, I think there'll be a series of announcements over the next 6 to 12 months. Obviously, as we start the drilling at Prince Alfred, we'll keep the market informed in terms of how that's progressing and what the results for that are looking like. We're very clear on that project that it will be a fail fast. So it's not something that we need to spend a huge amount of money on to establish whether there is likely to be economic mineralisation. And if we're not convinced that there is, then we will certainly stop that project. With Wudinna as well, it's going to be staged. We will be looking at doing geochem sampling, identifying the best anomalies, and then putting some targeted holes into those. So, as that drilling and exploration progresses, we'll certainly want to keep all of our investors very well informed as to the success of those projects, and also increases to the resource base as that process happens at the same time.
Can I also add something to that, please, if I may? One of the things that we'll also be doing over the next few weeks is we're attending the UK Investor Show on the 30th of March here in London. Craig is coming over for that, and we'll be spending a week. We'll be spending a week together on the road, meeting investors and presenting in more detail what the plans are and how we expect to take this forward. So we look forward to meeting our investors and also potentially future investors to help them understand the story and how this is going to develop over the next 6 to 12 months.
Fantastic, and we'll look forward to seeing you there as well at the UK Investor Show with Share Talk. So for any investors, I'm sure they can come along and meet you, Craig, in person and ask all the questions they want. We look forward to following your story and sharing back from you shortly.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.